Greetings! Today I will show you how to use media trays in the production module. Media tray. Let's open a default 3D production modules session. We use media trays in the same way also in light production module. We select output format, for example 1080p50. We press Start Product button, which will launch the module. A progress bar shows up. After loading a default session, the production module appears. We can see a preview section in the upper left corner. 4 previews for camera's input, 2 input buffers for video files Media 1 and Media 2, 2 graphic file trays Still 1 and Still 2, 2 trays Text 1 and Text 2 for handling rec still files from Still Editor module. We usually load graphic files there when working with DSK. Above the icon we can see a bar indicating camera's working format. For media, it is a video file format. For images, a graphic file's resolution. We've chosen 1080p50 format of production modules operation, which means a video resolution for this output will be 1920 by 1080. FPS, on the other hand, will be 50 progressive frames per second. If, for example, a graphic file's resolution does not match the resolution chosen in the production, a warning message will be displayed in the form of a blue triangle. We can check this resolution by hovering the cursor over the bar. If FPS, that is number of frames per second, do not match, then a red exclamation mark will appear. As in this case, a camera's working format is P60, which means 60 progressive frames per second. Or I50, that is 50 interlaced frames per second and does not match the production module's format P50. Therefore, a red exclamation mark appears. It applies both to the camera and the video files from Media 1 and Media 2 trays. It is suggested to use files with compatible FPS, which will ensure smoothness of the playback. A tray section is located in the bottom right corner of the screen. In the first place, we can see the system's audio support controls. Underneath, we can find buttons for opening the trays: Media, Still and Text. We see additional sound button to handle audio files, as audio files do not require preview. A tray can be opened in several ways. By clicking on the buttons, we open a specific tray. The second way is to click on the previous section. When we click on camera, a key opens. When we click on a preview of a file being played, we open its tray. Each tray has 5 sub-tabs. Opening a sub-tab will automatically start playback of a file that is next in the input buffer. This way we can create categories of our files in individual sub-tabs. We will discuss the first button of the tray. It is ADD button that allows us to add a file into the tray. We select a file from the disk in the window. Let's add another file. Now I will show you how to delete a file from the tray. First, we select it with the mouse when we press Remove button. We can also rename the file. Select the file and click Rename icon. An Edit field appears there to enter a new file name. When we are finished renaming, we press Enter on the keyboard. The change of the file name only applies to the file in the tray. A name of the original file on the disk will remain unchanged. The second way of adding a file is to double-click on an empty space in the tray. We double-click with the left mouse button. As before, a window appears to indicate a file on the disk. Now I will show you how to play a file. We set Media 1 on the video mixer a full screen view. We double-click on the icon. The file has been loaded into the input buffer. The file is frozen on its first video frame. Let's now move to the menu Options and Configuration. We click on General tab. We can see that Play Media after selection through double-click option is disabled. It means that double-clicking on the file in the tray will only load it into the buffer without playback. Then we can press Play button to start its playback. Let's go to Menu Options and Configuration once again. We enable Play Media after selection through double-click option. After double-clicking on the file's icon, it will be automatically loaded into the input buffer. And its playback will start taking into account mark-in marker's position. A moving progress marker appears then, indicating a current position in the file being played. We can grab this marker with the cursor and move it anywhere. When we let go of the cursor, the playback will continue. Playback time, file's time and current marker's position will appear at the top. Playback time is calculated between mark in and mark out. With these markers, we can cut short the file's playback, both from the file's beginning and from its end. Let's grab one of the markers, Mark In. The video stops then. The file's icon in the tray also changes in accordance with Mark In position. The same can be done with Mark Out marker cutting the end of the video. The playback time will only take into account a part of the video between these markers. We can set such markers individually for each file, however, we must first load set file into the input buffer. We can also set markers using the menu. We move the cursor to a desired position. We select Mark In with a right click on the mouse. We do the same with Mark Out marker. With the menu, we can reset positions of our Mark In and Mark Out markers individually or for both at once. We can add the same file to the tray several times without any worries and freely set its markers. The next available option is Frame, Next Frame and Previous Frame. These buttons are available to the user when the file is not being played. With the buttons, we can move the video forwards or backwards. Each press of the button will move the video image by one frame. In this way, we can set Mark In and Mark Out markers with precision. We move the cursor and trigger the menu setting the marker. Loop button lit in gray that is enabled means that when the file's playback reaches Mark Out marker, the cursor will return to the file's beginning, to the Mark In marker, and the playback will start again. Such file will be playing on and on up until it is stopped. Let's start the file's playback. If we disable loop function, our video will stop at the last frame of the Mark Out marker, waiting to be played again. Another option is autoplay, used to start the file's playback automatically when it appears on the program screen. Provided that the file appeared on the air for the first time. I will show you such an example. If the video mixer is set to show a full screen camera stream, then switching to a full screen media stream will make a video from the selected tray start playing from its beginning. We can also choose a virtual studio as a stream. we can disable all available options on the ABCD source mixer. Now, after using media while file in a virtual studio for the first time, it will also start playing from the beginning. We should pay attention whether this file appears on the air via the main mixer as a source in the studio or as a DSK or a trigger. Play all is yet another option. It is only available if the file in the tray is stopped. The playlist is created. The files are then played one after another. The playback progress will sum up all the files' durations. Let us remember that each of the files loaded into the tray can have its own mark in and mark out markers. In such case, when we select Play All option, the total time of all the files will be calculated taking into account these markers' positions. The files will be automatically played one after another and a frame will light up around the currently displayed files icon. We can loop the list or play it each time using play, in case of which it will stop at the last frame of the last video. Now let's get to the graphic files. Adding, deleting or renaming is done in the same way as with the media files. Displaying graphic files is different, however. Images are static and have no playback time. We can assign a virtual file display time in the application in a situation where we have multiple files on the list. By default, each file is assigned with a time of 5 seconds. We click on it and select Set Playback Time option from the menu. We can change this time to 2 seconds. We add another file and create a playlist. Also, for the new file, we change the default time to 3 seconds in the control field. After enabling Play All option, we create a sequence of images. When we press play, the first file will be displayed for 2 seconds and the second one for 3 seconds. Without loop option enabled, the sequence will stop at its last image. In the case of graphic files, it is not possible to set mark in and mark out markers. Let's go again to Menu Options and Configuration to General tab. We will find there a control field to change the default display time of graphic files. I will set as an example 1 second. Then all the graphic files loaded into still and text tray and those newly added will have a new display time set. Let's play this sequence using play. Each file will be displayed for 1 second. During the playback of such a sequence, for example in a loop, when we change the time value in the control field, we will be notified with a message that our sequence will be played from the beginning. Then each file will be displayed with a new time indicated by our settings. This is some protection when the sequence is being currently used live on the air. Let's now move to the text tray. It has an additional option that is not yet visible. When you add a rec still file from Still Editor module, another edit option is activated. Let's select our file and use this option. Now we can edit our text live in the production module without having to create a new file in an external module. Let's enter a new name and press OK. We will load it to DSK by selecting Text1 tray. We double-click on it and it will load into the input buffer. Now we trigger Clone option with a right-click. We create a new project. We select it. We will use Edit button. After double-clicking on the inscription, a window where we will enter a new text appears. We have changed the text in the new project. We can now double-click on our file and load it into the input buffer. The project with the modified text will appear on the DSK. We can use Play All option and create a sequence. New stickers with modified text will be displayed one after another. Thank you.
Wrecking. Keen on record.